Like, this is called the Pesky Report. Like,
welcome back to the Pesky Report. This is episode 596 of the Pesky Report, brought to you by Beyond the Monster. And as always, this episode is also brought to you by TJ Stats, advanced MLB stats and tools, including pitcher summaries, prospect rankings, and live pitch data. Head on over to tjstats.ca and use code PESKY, PESKY, for 25% off your first month. That's code PESKY at tjstats.ca. It's a full minor league show crew here. It's myself, Derrik, Hunter, and Jake. Hunter's a little bit under the weather, so we'll give him a little bit of breathing room. And he typically gets breathing room.
We're surviving.
He typically gets a little bit of breathing room anyways around this time of year on this specific episode of every year because it's the draft preview episode. I'll let Jake lay the land of everything, what's going on with the Red Sox, what draft picks they have, what's kind of the bonus pool situation, and everything, and then we'll kind of get into some more specifics. So, Jake, first thing, welcome back. It's been a while, and also the floor is yours.
It's good to be here. Good to be with my guys to talk about the draft, which is one of my favorite things. And it's should be another interesting year with the draft strategy. First off, let's talk about this. The draft is Saturday and Sunday. And I don't want to have this be the topic. I don't really want to talk about this part of it, but MLB has done like everything in their power to like make the draft not be accessible or exciting or watchable for people. It gets worse every year. They've jerked around like the days that it happens. It's on a Saturday afternoon.
The first 10 picks are on Peacock and then it switches over to MLB Network.
It's so dumb. They like, I felt like when ESPN, I guess we are talking about this first. So you get ESPN when they were like kind of running it. Like I thought they did a pretty good job. Like they have their college baseball analysts. They have, Kylie McDaniel, and like it was I thought they did like a decent job with it. And then I don't know. So now ESPN's out of the picture. It's Peacock. I don't know who's doing the draft stuff for Peacock. Maybe they're bringing in the MLB pipeline guys like Jim Callis.
I'm assuming they're just going to be using the MLB Network people and pipeline guys because it's only the first 10 picks.
So it just sucks, and it sucks that it's starting at like 1 o'clock on Saturday, a summer afternoon, and they're doing the first 5 rounds on Saturday afternoon, and then it's rounds 6 through 20, I guess, on Sunday. Which, whatever, like that's kind of what they've been doing. But like sometimes it's been 3 days, but it's just they keep jerking it around and it sucks. So get your shit together, MLB and Peacock, and like figure out make it an event. Like the way they've done it with the NFL draft is like 36 or it's like 3 days. It's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Like they and it's an event. And like do that with the draft, like baseball draft, like it's content. Like anyway. All right. So Saturday is the start of the draft. Now let's talk about the Red Sox. The Red Sox will pick 20th overall in the first round. The last time they had a pick in this range in the first round was when they took Mikey Romero with the 24th pick in the 2022 draft. I think that was. And this is a very similar draft to that in that the Red Sox have a smaller bonus pool this year, have the smallest bonus pool that they've had since that 2022 year. And that might play into what their draft strategy is. If you remember what happened that year, we'll get to that in a little bit. But the Red Sox draft pool this year, they have an $8.219 million bonus pool. And again, just as a refresher, the way it works, the most important thing in the MLB draft is the bonus pool, because that's how much money you get to spend on your first 10 picks. And then if you give over $150,000 to any of your picks, 11 to 20, that counts towards the bonus pool too. So it does matter. It matters who you pick. It matters who you take and the sequence of where they were all together. And it matters a little bit more than the sort of bonus value of any one individual pick. So, and just for clarity, you can spend 5% more than your draft bonus pool on bonuses without incurring a penalty. The Red Sox historically always spend right up to that 5% overage. If they don't spend up to that 5% overages, it means that they failed to sign somebody like in 2021 when they didn't sign Jed Fabian. So the Red Sox have, because of offseason activity, they have their first pick at 20th overall. They do not have a second round pick, and they do not have a fourth round pick. That's because of signing Ranger Suarez. However, in addition to, on at least some nights recently, 3/4 of the Red Sox starting infield, in the trade with the Brewers, they also got the Brewers competitive balance B pick, 67th overall. And that is going to be their second highest pick. This is the second year in a row that the Red Sox have done a trade with the Brewers to get a competitive balance round pick back. They did that last year too, and they took Marcus Phillips with that pick. So like I said, first overall, there's the first Red Sox first pick, 20th overall, has a $4.374 million bonus slot allotment. The second pick, the 67th pick overall, has $1.317 million a slot value, and the third rounder, which is it number 96? I didn't write that down. 96 overall is $815,000. So that gives you a sense of, and then the Red Sox have all their picks from 5 through 20 after that. And so there's two recent drafts I think that we can kind of point to and think about how they're going to kind of like maybe approach this. The first is that the last year's draft, the only guy that they signed for an overslot deal in the first 10 picks was Anthony Ianson. Other than that, they were at slot or below slot on all of their other picks in the first 10 rounds. In the 11th round, they picked Brett Morgan. They gave him a $500,000 bonus, so $350,000 of that counted towards the cap. So I think that you could see something similar to that this year. And then let's talk about then that last draft where they had a pick in this area, which was the 2022 draft. The Red Sox, somewhat surprisingly, I had basically the day of the draft, I had read one thing that suggested that maybe possibly for a later pick, the Red Sox were interested in Mikey Romero. And remember the night of that draft, there was all of this like confusion because it seemed like the Red Sox had taken Drew Gilbert. Like it was reported that they were taking him. And then last minute, it kind of switched back. It's like, no, actually, they took Mikey Romero, another high school shortstop from California. They did that so they could save money because they didn't have as big of a bonus pool. And they ended up giving overslot deal to Roman Anthony in the third round or whatever pick that was. They also ended up giving an overslot deal to Brooks Braden that year.
It was a 2C pick.
Yeah, two competitive, 2 compensation round pick. And then, they gave a overslot deal to Brooks Braden that year too. So I think that possibly the likeliest outcome for the first pick, the Red Sox 20th overall pick, is because of the fact that that pick accounts for roughly half of their bonus pool money. I think you will most likely see the Red Sox take somebody in with that pick that they feel confident that they can either sign at the slot number or maybe a bit under it. Similar to what they did with Kyson Witherspoon last year, where they were able to get him for a little bit under the slot. And then, because they don't have the second and fourth round picks, maybe there's somebody that's really caught their eye for that 67th pick that they could give over slot money to. And this is an interesting draft year in that regard because there's a lot of high school hitters, especially in that kind of 20 to 50 range, that might fall down a little bit because of signability stuff. And we can maybe get in a little bit in terms of the CBA and the fact that this might be the last draft of its kind for a long time. We can get into that later because I have some thoughts about that. But we want to get into, I think we want to get into specifically who the Red Sox might target, especially with the 20th pick, because there's been a lot of mock drafts and a lot of different things. So, Derek, I'm going to let you jump in because I know you've looked at this stuff too, and I'll chime in with stuff with info that I've seen, that I've come across as well.
Yeah, so I kind of stuck with, so I was looking around mock drafts, especially today. I kind of singled out like 5 of them, but we'll get to those in a second. The one thing I will mention with mock drafts, the best information for me, what I tend to see is with mock drafts, isn't actually who are they saying, who are they mocking your team to pick. It's the little like blurb they give about what they're hearing or what the strategy might be for that team, or just just the general guys going around that area, right? Because the MLB draft, this is not, we've said it before in the past, but this is not the NBA draft, the NFL draft, the NHL draft, where whatever other leagues draft there is, the PWHL draft. None of those leagues are like the MLB draft, where you're drafting for best player / best fit, depending in those leagues. In the MLB, you might be taking the best player, but you also have to manage what essentially is a salary cap for specifically the draft with your signing bonuses. And it's different because in the NBA, you get picked with the first pick. Here's your set contract. That's what you're getting. No ifs, ands, or buts. You get picked with the 20th pick. You get this contract. No ifs, ands, or buts. I know the NFL doesn't, necessarily, is a little bit more kind of, oh, you could get this amount of money, or it's not an exact number, but there's no cap, right? The only thing the NFL teams have to worry about is their actual salary cap. Here, we're going off of the signing bonus, and there's only so much money to go around. The Red Sox have, with the 5% overage, just over $8.6 million to spend. And that, even if we want to just say for the sake of it, that's in their first 10 picks. That 8.6 isn't going to get spread evenly. Your first round pick, you're not gonna spread it evenly because you're not going to only spend $860,000 on your first round pick, right? So there's a lot of chances for movement. There's been, I know I do want to throw out a name just now in just some sense, like, because there's a lot of talk about maybe with the signing bonus, like you mentioned, Jake, going under slot potentially. A guy that like people have been bringing up for the Red Sox, not necessarily as an underslot guy. I think at this point he's probably going to go to college, is Brody Bamila, just because he's from the area, but pops up at the MLB Draft Combine with a UCL injury, and now, unless he's willing to sign under slot, but also too that it would be his potential second elbow surgery as a high schooler. Odds are he's probably going to go to college, right? Which is the other, and that I bring that up because that's the other kind of issue with the MLB draft in terms of signability. We talk about overslot, underslot, but a lot of that also has to do with signability as well, because you don't want to have a Judd Fabian situation where you draft a guy and he doesn't want to sign with you because he had an agreement with another team, or he won't sign unless he gets this much money, but you've promised other money to other people and you don't have enough money to give him that much money. So, especially with high school players, they can just choose, hey, I'm going to go to college. Sometimes you'll see it happen before the draft where, X player will come out and say, hey, I'm committing, I'm going to this college. There's no point in drafting me. And a lot of that is because whether it's their agent, advisor, whatever you want to call them, has, made phone calls to teams and has decided this player is probably going to be drafted around this area and it's not going to be enough money to pull him away from college. Other times, guys keep their names in the hats, and odds are typically that means they will be getting enough money. Albeit sometimes, you never know, a guy might be available, and once you get past, let's say, pick 25, they pull their name out. So there's a lot. It's a balancing act between signability and whether or not the draft strategy of going overslot and underslot, as well as trying to make sure you have the best class all around, right? It's not about just having the best first pick. It's about having the best class, rounds 1 through 10, and then even 11 to 20, right? So just to kind of get into some of the mock drafts, I think the kind of idea for the Red Sox is pitching has been a trend recently under Craig Breslow. So you could always go kind of the college pitcher route. The 3 that I saw mocked to the Red Sox on the college pitching side of things was Hunter Dietz out of Arkansas. He's a left-handed pitcher. Taylor Rabb. I don't know if it's Rabb or Rabe. He's from Ole Miss. He's a right-handed pitcher. And then Joey I think it's Volchko, I think it is. He's a right-handed pitcher from Georgia. Those are kind of your three pitchers. They're all 6'4" or taller, right? Kind of fitting the Red Sox mold. The other thing is bats, obviously. The Red Sox under Chaim Bloom had targeted high school bats early, like, Mikey Romero, Marcelo Meyer, Nick York, etc., right? Even throw Blaze Jordan into that mix and throw a couple others too. Roman Anthony, for example. Bo Lawrence seems like the one who's really kind of getting linked to the Red Sox heavily. And he plays shortstop right now. Odds are he's going to get moved to third base. Another situation a la Nick York of, yes, you're a shortstop in high school, but you're not going to play shortstop in pro ball. Bo Lawrence is also 6'5". I mean, your odds are at that size you're not sticking at shortstop, even though he's not like big and burly, but he's out of a high school in South Carolina. He is committed to Virginia, so that is something to keep on the back burner. And then speaking of Virginia players, this one was a little bit out of left field. Also, too, I'll just mention the publication on this one was Perfect Game, so I don't know how much I'm trusting it. Eric Becker was Virginia's shortstop, but on Overslot, which is I don't know if you know Joe Doyle on Twitter, he works for them. I'm pretty sure he runs pretty much all their draft stuff. But he mocked him at 37, but said there's a chance that he could even. He said, quote, he could easily go 20 picks higher or 20 spots higher. So when I saw that and then combining it with the whole Perfect Game thing, I'm like, don't know how much I trust Perfect Game, but you know what? We're going to add him to the list. So Dietz was from MLB.com. Lawrence was from Bleacher Report. Rab, I don't know how you say it, was from The Athletic. Volchko was from Overslot and Joe Doyle. And then Becker was from Perfect Game. So those are kind of the five that I saw that were specifically mocked to the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean there aren't any other names.
Yeah, no, I was going to say there's a couple others. So today, Baseball America put out their staff draft, their last one. What they do is they have like their 4 or 5 guys that cover the draft. They just kind of like went down and each kind of went, like the 5 of them like made picks and like, going all the way down through. They actually had the Red Sox taking Tegan Kuhns from another college pitcher from Tennessee. With that pick, he's ranked 25th by Baseball America, by MLB Pipeline. You mentioned Taylor Rabe, who Keith Law mocked to them today.
What about Jack Riddell? Dude from Notre Dame.
I have not seen his name specifically.
Yeah,
mentioned.
haven't seen him mocked or linked. I'll run down some of the pitchers that have other names as well. Liam Peterson out of Florida has been kind of linked. Mason Edwards of USC, more of a kind of pitchability pitcher, and he's only 6'2", so not totally mold, but Tyson Witherspoon last year, 6'2". Cole Carlin out of Arizona State was one that I saw. I saw Cade Townsend also from Ole Miss. And then I threw this name on there as a don't think he gets to 20, but we've seen guys slide a little bit into the Red Sox laps. I did throw Cameron Flukie of Coastal Carolina on my list just as a if he does slide to the Red Sox at 20, I think he should be the pick.
I mean, we probably should talk about like Grady Emerson and Von Lackey because that does just seem to keep happening. So we probably should mention
that's not happening. Emerson might be going 1.
I would, picking
MLB Pipeline
keeps happening.
MLB Pipeline pushed him up to 1 in their recent draft rankings. They put him
picking 11th or 12th. That's one thing. To have a guy that should go in the top 5 fall to you at 20.
A guy that might be.
I'm wondering if there's. I'm wondering if it involves illicit substances and a gas mask. Why he would fall that far.
Yeah, I also wonder. I also don't know how feasible it is that you're going to sign a guy who's probably asking for more than your entire bonus pool.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. We've talked every year. We're like,
I'm
just saying every year we're like, oh, there's no reason to talk about these guys. We're too far down. And then every year it happens, and we're like, oh, maybe we should have mentioned them.
Kyle Teal was the biggest one to me. Like that was the one that was like
Teal was 1 pick away from going 4.
early in the process, it was like Kyle Teal, whatever. And then all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, there's no way he's going to fall. Like, so I think that year when we did the draft, like when we did a draft preview, I don't think we mentioned his name once. Like, I just don't think it came up once. And look, I get what you're saying. To me, a name like that is a guy is
obviously they're not falling. It was more just me being an asshole, but
a guy who early in the process was linked a little bit more to the Red Sox, but is not really been linked to him recently because I think he's going to go higher. Is Jared Grindlinger from he's like a true two-way prospect, and he's the only like high school pitcher that like who pitches at all who I've really seen linked to the Red Sox at all. I feel like it's been pretty much all been college hitter or pitcher or high school hitter. Haven't really seen a lot about even Brody Bamila, the name that you mentioned before, a local kid from Bishop Fee in high school in Attleboro.
I think he's going to college at this point, though. Too.
He's probably going to go. He's certainly not going to go in the first round after he told teams that he had a UCL issue that came up, and they didn't really even say what it was. Too. So I think odds are he probably does go to college now. It sucks for him because it was fun. It was electric to kind of see him do what he was doing locally here. But so I I think a name like Jared Grindlinger is somebody who realistically, like, hey, maybe that's a guy that should go more like in the 10 to 12 range that maybe falls down. Like, I could absolutely see that happening. And I just a few other things I wanted to point out in terms of names linked to the Red Sox, and you mentioned a few of them, Derek, but basically, like, the Keith Law today said, Red Sox have been linked to a bunch of guys, including Rabe, Zion Rose, his college outfielder, Bo Lawrence, we mentioned him before. Kylie McDaniel did put out a thing today where he didn't really do a mock.
He just named a bunch of people and
right. He was like
kind of insights.
The track record. This is what he said. The track record of this front office at High Picks is to lean into pitchers, particularly lefties with big extension who favor supination. Good breaking pitches, cutting the ball are each naturally easier than pronating, throwing a changeup and a two-seamer, and generally to pick position players with above average power potential. Liam Peterson, Mason Edwards, if they make it to pick 20, as well as Cade Townsend, generally fit the mold of these pitchers, though they all have lower extension. Daniel Jackson, Bo Lawrence, and Zion Rose all fit in the position player side. Lawrence has been rumored the most at this pick of this group. So that's definitely a name that's come up a lot. Bo, you mentioned him a little bit, Derek. He's big. He's 6'5". Feels like right now he profiles more as a third baseman. They might end up having to move him to first, depending on how big he gets.
This is why the whole playing shortstop thing in high school as well.
Yeah,
they're picking another shortstop. We all remember that. No. We all remember that.
He's 6'5". Like, come on. Like, he's not gonna. He's like a teenager. Like,
there's literally talks of he's gonna play third base and might even end up at first base long term.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
The name that gets thrown out a lot comparison wise is, and I hate to put this on a kid as always, but like people have compared him to Freddie Freeman quite a bit in terms of his build. I think a question with Lawrence is that there are folks out there wondering if he's really going to develop into a power hitter. It sounds like he's kind of got this like Justin Gonzalez, like early Roman Anthony thing where it's like not really lifting the ball or hitting for a lot of power yet. That could obviously change. And then
I'll just add real quick I'll add real quick on Lawrence. Just because he was comped to Freddie Freeman, but also too there was some I know MLB.com had him comped a little bit to like PJ Morlando when he was coming out of high school. And he was the Marlins first round pick in 2024. And basically the gist of what I got from all the scouting reports, that he uses all fields, hitting from the left side, consistent contact, although he's yet to consistently pull the ball and hit it in the air, which is kind of leaves room for him to grow into power potential. Feels very much kind of like a little bit like I've talked a little bit in the last couple of weeks about how Red Sox have kind of taken like these guys we talked about a little bit with like Mason White and Henry Godbout, who are kind of like bat to ball guy first, and then looking to increase things like bat speed or other things that can kind of, or maybe lift the ball a little bit more where they impact the ball a little bit more. Lawrence seems a little bit, albeit at the high school level compared to the college level, seems a little bit in that mold of, hey, he's already really good bat to ball. Let's see if we can kind of tap into that power potential. Because also too at 6'5" too, like you'd have to assume there's going to be some power potential there. Hell, even Freddie Freeman, even that comp, as much as I don't like to we don't like want to put it on him, but like even like Freddie Freeman being 25 to 30 homers, if that's what Bo Lawrence ends up power wise, 25 to 30, I think you're happy with that considering kind of the bat to ball profile he has.
Exactly. Yeah. So I want to mention also, like you talked about Hunter Dietz. I think that, we welcome any more Hunters into the Red Sox franchise.
I won't be mad.
Pipeline had him mock to the Red Sox in their most recent mock, and they're going to probably start doing mocks like every other day now at this point. He is their top ranked college lefty for Pipeline. And he is big, he's 6'6", like he kind of fits the mold. Same, and for just
not a lot of mileage either.
SEC guy, like same thing with Taylor Rabe, but just from the other side, from the right hand side, like Ole Miss. Pipeline said that Taylor Rabe has they put out, I think it was today, they put out their like best tools in the draft, and they said that Taylor Rabe has the best control of any pitcher in the entire draft. So take that for whatever that's worth. And yeah, so those are the names. And then, so Derek, I know that the caveat with this being, of course, that it's hard enough to predict who they'll take with their first pick. But
forget about the next.
They don't have another pick until 67, and then not until 96 after that. Like, it's hard, but you've done a little bit of work on this. So why don't you tell us what you
real quick, I do want to I did write out like mini scouting reports for some of these guys. So like on Dietz, I literally wrote 6'6" with not a ton of mileage, only an inning and 2/3 in his first two collegiate seasons. Legit 4-pitch mix, fastball, curveball, slider, cutter with an additional changeup. Sits mid-90s, can touch upper 90s, and then a high strikeout numbers this past year. And then Rabe was 6'5", hitting upper 90s fastball. Also not much mileage on his arm. Started 26 as a reliever. Ended the year as Ole Miss's ace. Fastball has, quote, good velo, carry, command, and deception per MLB.com. And he has a cutter and slider that have been unhittable at times. Pounds the strike zone, but also keeps the ball on the edges, rarely leaving pitches over the middle of the plate. Hence the kind of best, I guess you could say, best control in the draft class. That's kind of where that comes from. I'll touch on Volchko real quick because Joe Doyle had him there. And he's 6'4" starting pitcher, maintains mid-90s throughout starts, and has touched 101 miles per hour. Drew Noah Syndergaard comps out of high school, but was seen as too erratic to pull away from Stanford. Still wild, and although he's improved in his lone season at Georgia, command issues are still a concern. 4-pitch mix, but still can't consistently throw any for strikes. But if he can command his pitches, he has front end starter potential, but does leave some big reliever risk. He's currently at Georgia. And then just on Becker, just because he was interesting. For me, also college bat, if it's not a first round pick, maybe they slide him down to their second pick if they go undersaw on their first pick. Although it'd be rare to go oversaw on a college guy. I just thought it was interesting because he's a hit over power guy from the left side. He's got excellent bat to ball skills while staying in the strike zone. And he could add more power, but is stuck with kind of his current approach. And then he has great instincts that could keep him at short, but could end up at third or second base. I just thought that was interesting because of them mentioning the excellent bat to ball skills, yet with potential to add more power. Feels like that kind of flies right up the Red Sox alley as well. I do want to throw in just on all the names. I have a names of interest section. I've already mentioned some of them, but I'll just run through them again quickly. Liam Peterson, right-handed pitcher out of Florida, 6'5", mid-90s fastball that can touch upper 90s, 4-pitch mix. Sawyer Strauss-Snyder, outfielder out of TCU. He's played right field in TCU, but many think he can play center field. Definitely raw power over contact, and does chase a lot. So there are some things there that could be concerning. Mason Edwards, lefty out of USC, more of a kind of pitchability guy. Prototypical college lefty with a feel for pitching, according to MLB.com or MLB Pipeline. Cole Carlin out of Arizona State. He's a 6'5" lefty with a 4-pitch mix. Zion Rose, outfielder out of Louisville, kind of 30 extra base hits and 30 slow bases in 2025. Was on pace for that in 26 prior to his injuries. The one thing that caught my eye with him, high bat speed, high exit velos, and big power, with also advanced bat to ball skills. However, he does chase at times. And by at times, I mean more often than he should. Cade Townsend, right-handed pitcher out of Ole Miss, another Ole Miss pitcher. He's kind of mid to upper 90s with a slider, curveball, and cutter, the all greatest plus pitches. Daniel Jackson won the Golden Spikes Award this past year with Georgia as their starting catcher. Whether he sticks to catcher or not is a question because he only played catcher full-time this season, but he has played outfield in the past and could end up there as well. Then I threw in Cameron Flukie just because if a pitcher falls and just so happens to be him, I think he should be the pick at 20. He's from Coastal Carolina, right-handed pitcher, 6'6", long arm path and high release point, which has kind of made it hard for hitters to hit him even if they do see the ball. And he has a repeatable delivery and can consistently throw strikes even at that size, which I thought was very interesting. Getting to some of the names I like. These are the more kind of down the kind of road picks. Maybe second, maybe third, maybe fourth, maybe fifth round.
We have to acknowledge that in the past, Derek has gotten some of this stuff right. That there are guys that he's mentioned in this segment. At least one guy. Maybe there's
two.
Okay.
Marcus Phillips and Zach Earhart.
Okay, Zach Earhart was the one I was thinking of. I guess I had kind of forgotten about Marcus Phillips.
Well, because Marcus Phillips was within like the 6'6" pitchers that I named last year. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So pay attention to these names.
So some of these were just names I personally like and that I'm kind of hoping for. Others were more kind of fits the Red Sox mold, and you'll see that when I get to the 8 pitchers I have listed. The 2 kind of personal ones that I really liked, Peyton Bonds. Check the last name, Bonds. Hello. He's related to Barry Bonds. What do you want? Outfielder from Rutgers. Is a good defensive center fielder with a solid hit tool. The power hasn't fully developed for him yet. However, everything kind of from Rutgers seems like he has good work, but I think ESPN even did like a piece on him at some point. It seems like he's got good work ethic, right? And his dad was in the minors, I think, for like 10 plus years. So if that work ethic is kind of carried down, I guess you kind of see maybe gets it from his dad, considering that. But like I said, also he's related to Barry Bonds. What more do you want? The one that really caught my eye, just if kind of a little bit down the Nazan Zanatello route of just like pure athlete, was Blake Bowen. He's a high school outfielder from California. He's around probably going to be he's around like the 50 to 60 range, I think, on MLB Pipeline. I think it was like low 60s, if I remember correctly. He was a former football player, and he kind of came into this year as kind of just like a pure athlete with really raw tools. They gave him a 60 hit power tool grade. They gave him a 60 power tool grade on MLB Pipeline, but in his like description, they said it could even be a 70 grade. And there were some concerns on like his ability to actually hit the ball consistently. But it seems like he's answered a lot of questions positively in the spring. Still raw, which kind of makes me wonder, like, does college might be the best route for him in that sense? But also, too, if there's a team that really likes him, and looks at that rawness as a positive, as a hey, we have a chance to really develop a guy, a la Nazan Zanatello, right? You could even throw a guy like Antonio Anderson to the mix. But I think Zanatello fits kind of the full, like, kind of pure athlete mold here a little bit better. Blake Bowen could be an interesting one. Now into the just kind of massive pitchers, I guess. So the first one I wrote was Hudson Debon. Oh God, I'm gonna screw up his name. Oh God, Hudson Devon.
Hudson Devon. Hudson
Devon. I'm having a day. So he's a high school pitcher. So a little bit kind of not totally up the Red Sox route. Totally. He's from from Indiana. He's committed to Alabama. Mid-90s fastball, projectable. He's also 19, so he's a little older than your average high schooler. There are questions about that commitment to Bama, but I thought it was interesting because big human being fits the Red Sox mold. I did also throw in Jackson Jelkin. He's an interesting one. He kind of has some character concerns. He's 23. He's 6'5", 195. He's got a 4-pitch mix. No pitch is like a true standout a true standout pitch. He was dismissed from Nebraska as a freshman. So there are kind of some makeup issues there, but I think they said that he has like potential like second round like talent if you can, if you can overcome those makeup concerns. Those makeup concerns are going to push him down a little bit, but if you're kind of betting on pure talent and like the maybe the 4th, 5th round, something like that, maybe a little bit later, depending on if he slides because of that. If you're betting on pure talent, it might not be the worst value pick. But like I said, there are concerns there. Micah Worley is a left-handed pitcher out of Hasuni Stony Brook. The Red Sox have liked their small schools before. Seems like he's going to be more of a day 2 pick. He has had strike throwing questions, which, could be a concern. But then again, I think to someone like Brandon Clark, right? And the Red Sox went with him, and he ends up kind of being a trade piece for them eventually. Worley 6'5", 60 grade fastball, 4-pitch mix, although the curveball and changeup are very much works in progress. He is 22. He was up to 98 miles per hour on his fastball at the MLB Draft Combine in June with nearly 20 inches of vertical break. So it feels like the fastball definitely can play, and the Red Sox do like good fastballs, especially under Craig Breslow, so that's an interesting one. Tyler Fay out of Alabama, right-handed pitcher. He's 6'5". He doesn't throw hard, but he's got a funky arm slot, which suspend me, I don't care. But that's what it said, and that's what I wrote down because I copied it. So there's that. Max, I'm calling him Max Yell just because his last name is spelled Yehl, and I think if his name was Max Yell, it's kind of funny. His name is also Max with 2 X's, so I guess if you want to get into like the cool names, I guess. He's a left-handed pitcher out of West Virginia. He's 6'6". He only started this past season. Worst case scenario, his fastball slider combo can play in the bullpen. I have Jack Riddell from Notre Dame, 6'5", 5-pitch mix. More of a high floor guy than like a ceiling guy. But he's got a high arm slot and good extension, which could be intriguing to the Red Sox. Carson Jasa, I think is how you say it, from Nebraska, right-handed pitcher. He's a 6'8" pitcher. He was so raw entering Nebraska when he went there as a freshman, as a redshirt, when they redshirted him, and they wouldn't even let him face batters in practice because of how raw he was and how he couldn't control the ball. He struggled as a redshirt freshman and didn't pitch much, but he kind of became the Cornhuskers ace this past year. There's massive reliever risk there. Massive reliever risk. But there's also huge upside as a starter. Although the interesting thing with that, guys like that typically have like the elite fastball and they can't figure out their secondaries. He has better feel right now for his off-speed pitches for his secondaries. So that's kind of like that's like a full like blown, like that could be really intriguing. And then I have to throw a reliever in there with stupid stuff. Carson Wiggins out of Arkansas, right-handed pitcher. He's 6'5" with an elite fastball slider combo. He's a pure reliever. Just pure blown reliever. Previous elbow injury. He had a previous elbow injury in 2025. So he only threw in his years in college. He's only thrown 14 collegiate innings. So yes, there's been an elbow injury. However, there's been no mileage on his arm. The pitch mix could be dynamic even with the reliever. However, there was a couple things that made it seem like where like on his like MLB.com like description and like a couple other things that I read up on him that teams could try him as a starter, especially if they want to go with him early, pick him early. health concerns will be there just because he hasn't pitched in a game since 2025. But he's touched 102 miles per hour. The other thing of note, his older brother is Jackson Wiggins, who had a 6.17 ERA through 2 seasons at Arkansas before Tommy John surgery. But he was still a supplemental second-round pick and is now a top 100 prospect in baseball. At least was at the beginning of the season for Pipeline, Baseball America, and Baseball Prospectus. So if you're kind of wanting to go with the guy with elite stuff, he only has 2 pitches, but elite stuff, Carson Wiggins might be your guy. Like I said, most of these guys, especially on the pitcher side, fit they're big or they have great extension or both mold that the Red Sox like to go after. Some of them are also guys that just intrigue me, like Wiggins, for example. Elite fastball slider combo. But like I said, 14 innings in college. 80 grade fastball, 70 grade slider sounds amazing. Just the guy has thrown 14 innings since he even played high school baseball. I don't know. There's not a ton you can really, there's not a lot of footage to go off of that. But those are kind of the names I like. Like I said, Peyton Bonds would be cool, related to Barry Bonds. Bowen's kind of your pure athlete type, and then the rest are just pitchers that fit that Red Sox mold of being just massive human beings, because we know the Red Sox like those.
Yeah. So, I will just point out a couple things. First, in addition to all of that, I think that the Red Sox, like we talked a lot about big pitchers, like big guys. That is like, especially from college, that has been the MO the last couple of years. The Red Sox have gone heavy since Craig Breslow came here in terms of drafting pitchers. So much to the point that it was like last year, it was just shocking how many pitchers they were taking, and that they weren't really targeting a lot of hitters. They especially weren't targeting a lot of catchers, which we thought was kind of something they needed. The need at catcher feels a little bit lesser at the moment, although if they were able to, draft a franchise level catcher, it's not like the worst thing in the world. There is one of those in this draft, and Von Lackey, but we're probably not going to see him fall to the Red Sox. I'm very fascinated to see what they end up doing this year in terms of, like, is this going to be another pitching heavy draft? I think we've learned in baseball today that you really cannot have enough pitching. So, will they continue that approach? I don't know. They could definitely use some top end hitting talent for the low levels of the minors. This is a fact. But they can and should draft based off of who's the best player on the board that fits what they want. You mentioned a couple of high school arms, or at least one high school arm there, Derek. Like, the Red Sox have moved in this very model heavy direction with all of the franchise, but especially the draft. It's a lot easier to do the model for college guys as opposed to high school guys, depending on where they go to high school. So that's why I feel like you see more of it with the pitchers going in the high school direction. The last thing I'll mention is it is worth at least mentioning. This is the first year that Jake Brummel will be running the draft. It was Devin Pearson the last couple of years. He obviously left to go to the Nationals. I feel like the draft strategy is pretty much set by Breslow, by the front office, the high up guys. It's kind of just incumbent on the amateur scouting apparatus to implement the strategy, I think. So I don't know that he's probably not going to run the draft any different than Devin Pearson did, or that Paul Taboni did before him, or that Ben Crockett did before Paul Taboni. But it's just worth mentioning that this will be his first year if officially in charge of the draft. So something to just keep an eye on.
Yeah. And I do want to say, I do wonder if I do have a few points. One, because I wanted to say this before and I forgot to, and I want to give you a shout out for I did notice the Laramie Tunsil reference, and I
thank you.
I don't want that to go.
We kind of brushed past that a little bit, but I really that was a
while ago. But I was like, you know what, that needs to be mentioned. I did notice the Laramie Tunsil reference.
Yeah,
and I did just want to throw out, there was one name that interests me that I feel like will be there in like the 19th round that I just think would be fun for the Red Sox to take a flyer on, who I watched pitch in the College World Series. Dude for UNC, Kyle Percival, sorry. and just my best friend growing up is a huge UNC fan, so that was like he was super locked in, he was super excited. So like he was the it was like a constant. Are you watching the games? Are you paying attention? Blah blah blah. So I was pretty locked into that. And he was the only pitcher in the final game that did not get his shit pushed in by Oklahoma. Just kind of all the UNC pitchers just did not have a good game that game. And I went back and I looked, and like he didn't really pitch much. He was a relief pitcher, 19 2/3 in 2023, 22 1/3 in 2024. Both were good years. And then he only threw 5 innings in 2025, season-ending injury. Really bad year that year, 14.4 ERA, but 3.66 in 2023, 2.42 in 2024. And then he only threw 7 innings in 2026, 3.86 ERA. So like 54 innings in his college career. So it feels like he's probably, but he is a senior. I don't know. Maybe. No, he pitched. So yeah, I mean, maybe he could somehow qualify for like a redshirt situation. I don't know. But if he's in the draft, he's someone I think would, just a massive lefty, 6'5", and he impressed me the 2 times I saw him. So he's just someone I would be interested in the Red Sox. I don't want to say taking advantage of, but college senior who's probably not going to get a lot of chances. It's like, oh, we'll sign you for the thing they do every draft where it's, oh, here's $7,500 for
it's like bonus. Your 9th round pick or something like that.
Yeah. And it's like, here's
$10K, make it work.
Yeah. Here's a really tiny bonus so we can save money elsewhere. And
in fairness,
we can throw money elsewhere.
In fairness, the Red Sox have not done that in a few years. I feel like they got shit for doing that. Like they got for giving literally giving like the college seniors and stuff like.
I mean, they gave Ammons and Wines in 2023 $50K.
But they didn't do it. But I think the last 2 years they haven't really done it. They didn't do it last year.
Okay.
They didn't do it last year. No.
I think what was it 22?
That's better. But
yeah, it was 22. It was 2022. They gave Caleb Bolden and Caleb Bolden, Jonathan Brand, and Isaac Coffey all $7.5K.
In 2022.
Yes, in 2022.
Yeah, well, that's how they signed Roman Anthony. So I mean, so what I'm.
Well, Brooks Brandon
too.
Though.
But it is interesting. It is interesting because, like I said, the bonus outlay that they have this year and the situation they have this year is very similar to what they had in 2022. So if there is a high, and I mentioned this, like that,
there's a chance. There's
25 to 50 range. There are a lot of high school hitters that are very intriguing.
Yes,
and so
there is.
So if a situation arises, like maybe also, a situation arises where they feel like they have to kind of go cheap on some people, and
they could, to float someone down to 67, maybe.
Yeah, it's a dick move, but if it's a move they feel like they have to pull. But then the other thing I wanted to say,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to reiterate that they have not done that the last couple of years. But the situation,
it might not be 7.5K. Like I said, in 23 they did 50K 2 times.
So, still like they could still go very under slot.
Yes.
But then it does depend. Did someone's like thing just beep? Did I hear that?
That wasn't me.
It wasn't me, but I heard it.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to say was you mentioned like the draft strategy and how it's like Craig Breslow, and I don't remember who was talking about this. I listened to too many Red Sox podcasts. Do you think Craig Breslow has his hand in like the 20th round, or do you think he's kind of like, all right, guys? Yeah, you think he's kind of like, all right, guys, I'm
He's got bigger things to worry about.
Yeah. You think he's like, all right, you guys can do this at this point?
No, that is, I think that I think anything, especially after the first 5 rounds, it's definitely after the first 10.
Unless there's like some crazy,
unless there's like a Conrad Kaysen situation where you're going,
or maybe he dips his head in and he's like, hey guys,
that's all.
Once you get to the point where everyone's signing for 150K, I don't think it makes a difference. I think it's kind of Breslow's like, you guys know who's the best on your boards. You guys
because I can't imagine he knows most of those names. No offense to them, but at that point, he's probably like, who the hell are these guys? Like, he's got 800 other things he's dealing with.
We're drafting Joe Schmo. I want to make sure we draft Joe Schmo from University
Especially
of Alabama, Missouri, Kentucky.
Especially since
while
at a
I'm
certain
trying
point,
to work out a trade for the deadline for Roldis Chapman.
especially at that point, the picks 11 to 20, it's pretty set in terms of how much you can give them. But also, like, yeah, maybe there is a guy that falls. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of different things to it because, to me, a a big part of the draft strategy should always be that a team in the Red Sox position where there's like a player might be like, yeah, I really want to play for the Red Sox, and there's somebody who just you never know what can happen. The big failing that I've seen in the draft sometimes is you have a guy in the first few picks that for whatever reason doesn't end up signing. So what you should always do, I think is a good strategy, is that pick like 17, 18, 19, you take one of these high school guys who has said that they have like an ironclad commitment to going to college. That way, just
Phoenix
in
Call.
case. What?
Phoenix Call, who's in this draft in 23.
That way, if something goes awry with the Judd Fabian of the world or Kumar Rocker when he got drafted by the Mets or whatever, you're not stuck holding $2-3 million worth of bonus money unsigned. You at least can go to that guy, the Phoenix Call or whoever. I remember Gavin Kylan. They did this with him before he got drafted last year. The Red Sox picked him late in a draft one year. You just go to them and say, hey, guess what?
Here's a stupid amount of money.
You want to come play? Like, it is kind of you're our sloppy second. Sorry for using that term, but like you're kind of that guy. Like you're the bridesmaid here in this situation, but still, here's like $3 million. You want to come play for the Red Sox? At least you make the guy.
Yeah, call me whatever you want if you're giving me that much money. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that is interesting, I do think we probably should mention this. We haven't mentioned it before, but I think now's really the time to talk about it. NIL one is not to go in the depths of it, mention it. NIL is definitely want to mention, but also the effects of NIL because there are certain college coaches who aren't recruiting people out of high school anymore. Right. We're seeing this across some different college sports as well. But if you have if X player, is, or like a school like LSU who has got like a stupid recruiting class, I think one of their top high school recruits just flipped to like UCLA because it's like, yeah, I'm not playing at LSU. They're bringing in like upperclassmen and whatnot. Like, I'm not playing ahead of them. So I like that's also an interesting thing too with the kind of the landscape of NIL because if you pick a guy in that 14th, 15th, 16th round that has kind of what seems to be an ironclad commitment to X school. And then that school goes around and brings in a junior who was one of the best players in the country at that position the year before. Now that guy's looking like, why'd I commit to you? Now I'm just going to be sitting on the bench, right? And so like there's also that. Obviously, that's very situational, right? But it is a good thing to kind of note because we don't know how the NIL landscape is going to affect the MLB draft because there might be certain players not at the very top of the draft class, not at the very top, but not your not your guys who are probably going the first 10, 15 picks out of high school, not your Grady Emersons, right? But your guys who maybe typically would go in like the 20 or so range, or like a Mikey Romero type pick where under slot at 24. Those might be the type of guys now that maybe are inclined to go to college because, yeah, they're not going to get as much money up front, but if they sign an NIL deal for a few $100,000 or so a year and they're at X school for 3 years and they get to develop at that school, that could be an intriguing option for them instead of taking the signing bonus and having to go through the minor leagues because as like pitchers, for example, the Red Sox ones, like they don't take high school pitchers anymore, right? Not really. I mean, it's been like Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, who was out of Puerto Rico, and then like I can't think of another one off the top of my head.
Who was the guy? They've taken a couple guys that didn't sign, as I recall. But there was like last year, I feel like they took like they took one high school pitcher last year.
Maybe.
No,
They took
I think the only high schooler I think was
Was it Fabian Bonilla? Was it?
Fabian.
Yeah,
Fabian
he was
Bonilla,
he was an outfielder though.
Yeah, they really
Yeah,
haven't taken a. Yeah, they really haven't not taken, unless you count Conrad Kaysen. Like they haven't taken a high school pitcher since.
A two-way player though. I think a little bit different circumstances.
They haven't
but
really taken a high school pitcher since Elmer Rodriguez Cruz.
Yeah, and he was from Puerto Rico, which not to be like, oh, like it's different, but like it is kind of different because I feel like those guys coming out of Puerto Rico, it's a little bit different with college commitments. It feels like.
In 2023, the Red Sox took Robert Orlowski with their last pick, and he did not
sign. And he didn't sign.
So that's the last time they took a high school pitcher.
Yes, and he didn't sign. So
that was also the Phoenix. That was the Phoenix call year, also.
Yes, which I do mention too because I'm not pulling the whole like, oh, it's gonna be like Zach Earhart and the Red Sox are gonna take him after taking him 3 years prior. I also don't know like if Phoenix Call would be tempted to go back to UCLA just because he's kind of been blocked by Raj Cholowski and overshadowed his entire time there.
Pretty much.
Not his fault, right?
No.
Not his fault.
Cholowski's really good.
You do wonder if like with a guy like Cholowski kind of leaving UCLA and they have a couple other infielders I think that are in the draft this year. Their first baseman, his last name's Levo. I'm not even gonna try his first name because I'm messing it up reading it. I think their third baseman might also like be in the draft as well. I think if I remember correctly. Roman Martin. So you do wonder if someone like a Phoenix Call maybe he sticks around.
Maybe.
Right.
Last thing, and then I don't know if we have any other specific draft things, but and then I'm going to hop off. But basically, I mentioned this near the top that we don't really know what the future of the draft is going to look like. And it is related to some of this other stuff that you're talking about with college and NIL and all that, where it feels like the owners want to outsource more of player development to colleges. And there's a lot of problems with that idea. It's a terrible idea. The incentives in college are way different. The college coaches winning, I'm not saying, we talked a lot about the value of winning in the minor leagues, but like college coaches are incentivized to do everything they can to win every game, including putting their, especially pitchers' careers in danger so that they can win, so that they can keep their job or get the next bigger job. So the incentives,
$10 million per year paycheck.
Exactly. The incentives would have to change for that to even make sense. And then obviously, like one of the things that's been talked about is eliminating high school players from getting drafted. I do wonder if there's more incentive, especially higher up in the draft, for high school players to sign this year. Considering that might change, that their sort of window to make money might lessen because, number one, who knows what's even going to happen next season? Is there even going to be a draft next year? We don't really know right now. There's that. And then just the idea of like, the longer that you're an amateur, the longer that you're not making that money, the more of a chance there is you're going to get injured. And, you'll be in a Brody Bamilla situation like we've just been talking about, where who knows, like his earnings took a huge hit just today. So I think that you may see fewer guys in the top 10. Like they always talk about this, like top 10, like how many guys in the first 10 rounds don't sign. I think that it will be, I could be totally wrong about this, but I think that will be an extraordinarily low number this year.
It is interesting too, because the whole CBA, like we don't know what direction it's going to go. I'm kind of the person where like I'd love to see it go the route of like how the NHL does it, where you get drafted out of high school and then that team like can maintain your rights if you go to play in college. Like that would be like, also too, then you avoid the whole like high school versus college thing and all that kind of load of kind of difficulty with the draft. Right, because like this guy got drafted in 2021, and now he's getting drafted again, and then he goes to JUCO, and he can be drafted in 22, and then he gets drafted in 24. It's like, how many times do we get to go into the draft? Like a one time out of high school, boom. If you don't get drafted, then you re-enter the draft the next year, right? But like just do it out of high. Like for me, I'm just like, do it out of high school. Let the team keep their rights while they're in college if they go to college, and then you figure it out. And then also too, it incentivizes. It doesn't force the players to be like, oh well, I either have to decline the signing bonus just to go to college. It's like, not sign. You can still go to college, and then pro ball will be waiting for you on the other side of college. Like instead of having to do the whole, do I take this money? Do I not take this money? Do I maybe hope I get more money in 3 years? What if I get hurt in college? It's a lot of a lot of things that kind of go into that, where I would rather just be draft out of high school like every other professional league outside of the NFL. Well, and the NBA, since the one and done thing, but even then it's just 1 year. Kind of like the NHL, draft out of high school, you keep their rights through college, and then you get them, and then they come into pro ball. And if they want to come into pro ball early, okay, that's cool. But at least it doesn't block them from being able to play college while also, because also with the NIL, they're getting paid anyways. So like, what's the difference of them getting paid by an MLB team, a signing bonus, or being paid NIL at a college?
I went on a rant about this the other day to my friend. I had to apologize to him immediately because I was like, I'm sorry, that was just me being pissy. But this is such a owner / college sports just wanting to make as much money as possible situation. And like they don't give a shit about the players in this scenario. The whole thing was like, they're going to cut the draft down to 12 rounds, which means they would clearly be getting rid of more lower levels of the minors. Because if you have less rounds, that means you're going to have less players in the minor leagues. So my assumption would be maybe just high A, maybe even just to double. I'm assuming high A. I'm assuming it would go high A, double A, triple A.
I assume they just call it A ball at that point and just go A ball, like A, double A, triple A.
But so you're again cutting down the number of minor league players, which is just cutting down opportunities. It's cutting down room for growth, and it's like you're not letting these kids get a chance to be bad in the minor leagues. Like a lot of these kids need time. We're seeing it right now with Antonio Anderson, where he put up a bad first year in low A, and it was like, man, if LOL was still a thing, maybe that's where he would have started, but it wasn't a thing for him, so he had to go to single A, and he struggled there. But and then he goes to high A, and it's like, man, he's still maybe a little too young for the level, but he's there. And now he's been like the best hitter on a really good lineup for the last month, and all of a sudden he's hitting 255 and he's hitting doubles every game, and like he's been improving. And it's like, if you're taking the legs out from under them, you're not giving them this chance to grow. And if you're just if you're doing like this no more high school thing, which I feel like we're seeing less high school kids anyway, especially like with the NIL, you're already seeing more kids go from college or from decide to go into college anyway, just because, I'm going to make money anyway. So like there's already been less of that anyway, but you're still seeing a decent amount of like the high school jump. It's just, it doesn't feel like a significant enough move. It really just feels like a way for the owners to just find an excuse to slash lower level minor leagues. And it's just, it's a lazy excuse. And like Jake said, college baseball doesn't care about the development of the players. That's not their main focus. Their main focus is winning. And I think it was Coley on Section 10, I think, brought up a good point, especially with the lockout coming and everything. You're really serving up a lob for like banana ball to just be like, hey, here's a lot of really good baseball players that are now going to be out of jobs because, again, there's going to be less opportunities for them. And like, hey, just here's a lot of really good, talented baseball players, and you guys are getting bigger and bigger by the moment, and you guys now have TV deals, and you guys are expanding every year, and more people are going to your
Wait till
games. And you're selling
ESPN
out
puts them on
shows,
national television because
and
there's
you're
no baseball MLB
and
games.
yeah, and like they're getting like local TV deals, and yeah, they are on ESPN every once in a while. Like they are
Oh
on
no, but
big
wait till if there's
television
no
networks.
MLB games
Yeah,
though, they'll
and
be
if
on
there's
ESPN even more.
and if there is a lockout, ESPN will probably snatch that up immediately. And I don't think it will ever be bigger than baseball or anything like that. Like grown adults probably aren't going to be like, "Yep, banana ball is," but like that's not who they're marketing towards. They're marketing towards 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds. But then if that's what they love now, that is what they will grow up to love. And it's just like, I don't know. You're doing something to save a couple million, which like, yeah, to me sounds amazing. But like to the billionaires, that's nothing.
It's
And it's like,
pennies for most of them.
yeah, you're exactly. So like you're doing something to save pennies to you that in the long run just feels like such a shot in the foot. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. Like it's like I mean, going back, like it's funny because when I'm making the point for me, like well, I wish it was like high school. You're dropping out of high school and then you can still go to college, but the team retains your rights. It's just on the fact of like Antonio Anderson. Let's say the Red Sox draft him and they do want to keep him, but imagine if he could have gone and played college for whether it be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on how he played, and then jumped right into the system at the end of the college season, right? Because you see it in hockey so much where, oh, this guy finishes his collegiate. The season's a little bit more similar in timing, but like this guy finishes collegiate hockey team, jumps right into the NHL team, right? And I do wonder too. It's like with all the lower levels of the minor leagues being kind of pulled back, even like what was it, 6 years ago now? With them kind of pulling back some of those lower levels on the minor leagues, like college could be that developmental level for guys coming out of high school that they need. But right now they're stuck having to choose between, do I just make that big jump to pro ball, or do I go to college and hopefully I develop well enough that pro ball will still be waiting for me on the other side of it, right? Whereas if you at least guarantee them that they have pro ball after college with X team that drafted them, you can, and it could also be the team also can say, hey, we want you to go to college for 2 years, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, develop there and then come into our system a better player, right? Because expecting an 18-year-old to go straight into A ball, it's going to be tough on pretty much every 18-year-old outside of maybe one or two.
Yeah. I feel like don't get me wrong, no owner is perfect. Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, not owner.
No commissioner is perfect because they have to work for the owners. That's the issue.
Yeah.
They'll never be perfect as long as they have to work for the owners.
Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, I feel like has made a lot of the whole thing they're doing with like the anti-tanking, I think is the stupidest thing in the world. But like a lot of the moves they make is clearly to try to grow the NBA. It feels like Rob Manfred is not trying to grow the MLB a lot of the times. And it's like they're one of the few leagues that has like a semi-direct competitor at the moment. I don't know. It's just baseball is the sport that needs the most help right now in that category. And it seems like he's not doing the best job.
Yeah, I think like the stuff with the minor leagues, like, we saw this after the pandemic, like they use it as an excuse to contract in the minor leagues. And now they're looking for it again. They just view the fact that like so much of Major League Baseball is the owners are so driven by profit. And I hate bringing this up, but like we're seeing more of the sort of private equity influence in sports, and they just view something like minor league baseball as a cost center. And it sucks like for everybody that loves the sport. So I really hope that this is something that the players don't let happen. The owners have tried to do the international draft for a long time too. They've pushed back on that. I have a feeling that this is something that will end up being like the draft eligibility, all this stuff. It will be important enough to the players that they push back on it. So anyway, I have to go, but this was fun, guys. We will see what happens this weekend, and I will let you guys enjoy the rest of the show, rest of the evening, and we will see who they take. And I have a date with a gas mask. I'm just kidding. No, I don't.
Great one, Jake.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks for having me again,
Hey, Jake.
and keep on keeping on. Bye.
I do want to mention too, as we are gonna be moving on from the draft stuff, but I do think it is kind of to close up the draft, I guess is the way to put it. At the end of the day, whatever happens. As Jake said earlier, this is extremely difficult to predict. If you're trying to predict the draft, you're really kind of, it's almost, even especially from our point of view where we don't have the intel that certain people do have. We are in some ways grasping at straws. We're grasping on what people are saying, what the trends have been recently, right? But we really don't know. We hope, we're trying to at least have some idea, and we can kind of try to draw conclusions. But I mean, the Red Sox could take a high school pitcher for all we know, right? They haven't. They could. It's one of those things that is really that can be difficult to predict, but we try our best. Just a reminder, obviously the draft's this upcoming weekend. Next week is kind of, with the All-Star break coming, it's our mid-season show. We're gonna kind of do like a kind of we're gonna wrap up kind of some of the first half stuff. We won't be doing mid-season awards. We're gonna save it for the week after because there won't really be much games to talk about. Just kind of the weekend. But we will kind of be doing like a draft recap because we'll have known what has happened with the draft at that point. So we'll do kind of like a draft recap as well as kind of our regularly scheduled programming. Moving on into kind of the regular stuff. I feel like I just want to lead with this just because it hasn't yet happened, and I feel like we talk about it every week, and I kind of want to get out of the way. Franklin Arias hasn't been promoted yet. It's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I've said in the past, I think it's going to be during the All-Star break. I would assume that's what's going to happen, considering he's, in the futures game. It's kind of the perfect timing, right? Also, Anthony Ionson's going to be in the futures game. That's also kind of, I guess, a good kind of thing to bring up. Kind of you two kind of also two guys that Portland now won't have for part of the week. So that's also something to kind of, I don't want to say keep an eye on, but we'll see some other people maybe get a little bit more playing time than they typically would over the course of a week. So it'll be nice to see in that sense, right? You might see some guy or like with Arias not being there. Okay, now you got to fill shortstop for maybe 3 games this week potentially. So how do they want to kind of do that and shuffle that around? I think that'll be interesting. Obviously, I would assume Ionson probably, if they want him pitching in the futures game, or if they're cool with him pitching in the futures game, probably won't pitch this week. If that's the case, so that's kind of okay. Now you got to fill in a kind of a spot start and sort of.
Yeah, he pitched Sunday, so I'm sure they're fine with him just not pitching.
Yeah, because I'd assume he's probably going to pitch an inning or two in the futures game. So, which is always a fun thing. But all in all, back to Franklin Arias. Like I said, it's not going to happen this week. Also, too, with all kind of moving parts with the futures game and whatnot. But be remiss if I didn't mention the week he had. We got to start somewhere, and what better place to start? 6 for 16, a double, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 6 walks, 2 strikeouts. Over the 5 games he played. I don't even know anymore. There really isn't anything else to say. It's funny because you see all these, you see like, Arias being ranked top 10, and don't get me wrong, like there are certain guys, certain prospects that are really, really good, right? But like in similar age, like you look at Arias, and you look at him, he's 20 years old, okay, right? Like he's in Double-A, destroying the baseball. Guys like I almost called him Jesus Made because I made that joke one time, and I was at Jesus. Is it Jesus Made or Jesus Made? I've heard both. But also like Leo DeVries, who are 19, and they both got OPSs around 800 in Double-A, which, do not get me wrong, at 19 is super impressive.
Yeah.
Arias is, he's only a year older. He's 20, but like even at 20, 160 weighted runs created plus in Double-A. Like Like, it's crazy what he's doing. And I think weighted runs created plus is probably a little bit better of like a showing where he is comparatively. Instead of just like OPS, because sometimes in like the minor leagues, like a 750 OPS might be average at the level, whereas if you have a 750 OPS in the big leagues, you're probably below average, right? So things like OPS plus, weighted runs created plus, I find are kind of better for kind of just looking at that overall, like just if you want one number to tell how good he's been this year. For me, that's kind of the two I go to, especially in the minor leagues, just for, like I said, OPS, the average OPS kind of fluctuate level to level. But yeah, Arias has been absurd this year. Great defender at shortstop. Just the power surge this year has been crazy. It's like I said, there isn't really much else for us to say because we've been saying it all year long. I feel a little bit weird. I don't feel like the same type of hype around him as like a Roman Anthony. I think a lot of that actually is more so due to the big league team and people just kind of being in like a kind of mood with the big league team, right? And that kind of trickling down
That's
a little
fair.
bit.
I think it definitely translates.
Yeah, well, I mean it's just fair, but like even with all of that going on, the hype around Arias is crazy. This year, just the numbers. I just want to read them real quick. 332, 418 on base. Why is this slugging not loading? I don't know, but he's got a 1020 OPS, 17 homers, 47 RBIs. He's also swiped those 5 bases. Just like I said, there's nothing else to say. He's been amazing. There's a reason he's one of the top prospects in baseball. It gets harder and harder every week to come on here and be like, no, let's chill on the expectations, right? It feels like it gets harder and harder every week to be like, chill out on expectations just because of what he does has been so and what he's done has been so insane. He continues it, right? It's like week by week. It's like he almost is getting, feels like he's getting better week by week. But yeah, there isn't really much left for him in AA. Like we mentioned, right? You know, I mentioned earlier this year how I was kind of joking when I said it, but like, hell, he might be in AAA by June, right? But by the All-Star, like if we are probably looking at an All-Star break call-up, just makes the most sense. Like even then, like that's a tremendous accomplishment for Franklin Arias. If you would have said at the beginning of the year, yeah, Arias is going to be in AAA at the All-Star break and he's going to be one of the top prospects in baseball, I think anyone would have saw that and been like, okay, how crazy of a year is he having? Like, is he hitting 400? Is he hitting 500? It's like, oh no, he's popped 17 homers. That's like, wait, what? 17 homers at the All-Star, and we're not even at the All-Star break yet. We still have a week, right?
Yeah.
So he might add 1 or 2 more potentially, depending on how much he plays before he heads out to Philly for the Futures game. But yeah, spectacular season so far. There's nothing else to say. We might actually be doing a best hitter outside of Franklin Arias or best position player.
I mean, we've had to do that a couple times.
I think we might be doing
other
we're
players.
probably doing
I mean, we have to because it would be the most boring award. So
who's the best position player so far this year?
That's not fun if you include him.
No, it's
no one else would get a vote. So
yeah, like literally, I like if anyone else gets a vote, it's because you're already assuming the award's going to Franklin Arias.
Yeah.
And you're giving them second place, basically. Yeah, the season's been crazy. Another guy's had a really good year. Brooks Brennan also had a 2-homer week this week. There were a lot of homers. Nelly Taylor, Caden Rose, Nate Baez, Jack Monet once again popping up. A weird week for him. No walks this week. A little bit outside of his norm, but still. There were a lot of good weeks in Portland, but especially those kind of top 2, Arias and then Brandon really. I guess you could call it a breakout season, right? I don't know what else you'd call it. He's been really good this year. It's nice to see. Like I said, Arias. I don't think we have any words left for him.
Yeah.
Just I think we've run out of words. I don't know if we may need to add new words to the dictionary at this point. But then Brooks Brannon's been great too.
Brandon. 368, 2 homers, 2 doubles, 7 RBI. Led the team with 7 RBIs. He's been phenomenal. Marvin Alcantara, 385 with a double, a homer. He stole a base. Jack Winay hit 350 with a homer. Abram Liendo hit 333 with 5 more RBIs. His career high in RBIs, I think, was 32 coming into the year. He's at 41. So like he's only hitting like 229 or something like that on the year, but he's playing elite tier defense at mainly third base. He can also play second. He can also play short. But he's got the career high in RBIs. He's got 15 stolen bases. He's got 5 home runs, so he's got a little bit of pop. Marvin Alcantara has a career high with 6 homers. He plays elite defense at second base, at short. He can play third. So I'm assuming when Arias goes for a couple days, it'll just be probably Liendo at second and Alcantara at short, because I'm assuming Nick Sogard will be in Worcester rehabbing this week instead of Portland. So that would be my guess, is it'll be those two up the middle, and then Winay will be playing third with Brandon at first. It'll be a nice easy excuse for them to figure out a way to get all of them in the lineup without having to give someone a day off, because they've kind of had to figure out days off, especially with Sogard rehabbing. It's been even harder for them to figure out days off. But there's been someone, not at least one person not in the lineup, who deserves to be in the lineup every day. And now with Sogard more than likely going back to Worcester, and with Arias gone for a couple of days, probably, it'll give them an excuse to get everybody back in the lineup. So that'll be good.
Yeah, no, it's that Portland lineup this year, just like in general, team in general, they have been really good, and I think too. And when I say really good, it doesn't necessarily. When I say, and I'll just mention it, when I say like a team, like, oh, this team's really good, I more so mean like the talent. Because in the minor leagues, we know you can have all the talent in the world, but you might only be 500 or under 500, because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You can have a minor league team that the talent, like overall, like you might not have any future big leaguers on it, but because they're all just kind of high floor, low ceiling guys, they might be a really good team. So I'll just kind of throw that out there for future reference too, but also, but yeah, between you look at Alcantara, had hit 385 this past week with an 1192 OPS. Even even though he didn't walk, he still had a good week. Liendo, obviously, very good defensively. He had a good week this past week. He had 5 hits. You start kind of putting the pieces together, right? And you also like you don't have to worry about shoving one of those like infielders, at least with Arias gone, and also potentially the potential call up to Worcester. To me, it also helps to bounce things out a little bit, because now you don't have to worry about shoving, oh, we got to put Alcantara DHing today because there's nowhere else to put him, but we want to get him, we want to let him play today. Now you can let him play in the infield, and now you can use that DH spot. Let's give Johan Fran a day off his feet. Let's let him DH maybe twice a week or whatever, or like one of our back, or like let's let Nick Baez DH, or whoever, or hell, let's let like Ronald Rosario. He's gonna get a couple games in, right? Maybe we'll give him an extra game and let one of our catchers DH. Like something like that, I could definitely see kind of happening more often. Once Arias moves up to AAA, which isn't like that's actually a good thing too, because now you kind of instead of everyone kind of it being a little bit of like a fight for playing time, guys are going to be more consistently in the lineup every single day, which I think is good, right? It's also probably good for their development too, where you can come into a week and unless there's a rehab, you kind of are confident that you're going to be in the lineup most days. Where, like I said, that middle infield kind of trio right now with Arias, Alcantara, and Liendo, like one of them is the odd man out unless one of them ends up playing third base. And especially with all three of them being good defenders, you'd love to see them out there on the field doing, especially in the case of Alcantara and Liendo, in my opinion, doing what they do best on the defensive side of the ball. Or defense. Yeah, I guess you call it defensive side of the ball. I guess you could call it, right? So I think especially too, there'll be more opportunities for them. And also too, like with more opportunities also becomes kind of more opportunities too to consistent at bats. Who knows what's going to happen with those consistent at bats too. You never know what's going to happen with a guy. Maybe more consistent at bats leads to better results too. I do think. I also should mention. I did want to mention Rodelis Martinez had 2 hits in the 2 games he played. One of them was a double. It's funny too when you sometimes see like a guy, he only plays 2 games, he'll have 2 hits. It's like, and you forget to look at like the games category. And I remember I had the stats sorted by OPS, and I remember I was looking earlier, and I'm like 1,000. I'm like, how do you have 1,000 OPS and you only got 2 hits? Then I realized, oh wait, yeah, duh. What happens when you only play 2 games and only get 5 at bats? Like, that's how it happens. So also, like I said, with Arias moving up, maybe the DH spots, maybe someone like that. Maybe if Rodelis Martinez is playing well, maybe there's more playing time there. If kind of maybe a guy like Caden Rose gets more playing time, he hit a homer this week, right? Stuff like that'll be good to see, and also too potentially opens up a spot for someone to move up from Greenville, right? Arias goes, and maybe it's not like a like for like replacement. Maybe it's not an infielder. Hell, maybe it's an outfielder, right? Who knows? Maybe I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like maybe it's like a Justin Gonzalez that's moved up to Portland, and now you add Justin Gonzalez into that lineup. We're kind of somewhat replacing Arias. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just kind of using it as like an example. It doesn't have to be a like for like. For Arias, it doesn't have to be a shortstop coming in. It could be anyone, right? And you just open up another spot in that lineup for someone like that too, to kind of give them playing time at that next level. I think like stuff like that's kind of going to be a good thing to see over the next kind of couple weeks with Portland. Kind of starting this week with Arias going to the Futures game, and then like assuming he gets moved up to Worcester. Also, other great thing with the Red Sox not being able to truly be buyers, we really shouldn't have to worry about any of these guys getting traded. So, in the case of our show, great. We hate seeing our guys get traded. I still fear a potential Alan Castro trade every deadline. So, just we might be okay this deadline. Hopefully. If not, I will march my behind to Boston and bang on Craig Breslow's door till he opens. I actually won't because I don't know where his door is, but I'll send a letter and be like, hey, why'd you do that? Come on, respect the fan club. I'm getting off topic. Anything else on the hitting side, Hunter, before we want to move it over to the pitching side? All right, pitching side of things. I will just mention it just to get it out of the way. Patrick Sandoval kind of finishing out his rehab assignment, 5 innings, just the 1 hit, 7 strikeouts, only 1 walk, no runs, especially with kind of the Connolly early injury, and who knows what's happening with Ranger Suarez now, unfortunately. Can never have too much pitching, and Sandoval looks like he is set to join the big league team. So good for him.
He was already promoted, or whatever you want to call it, recalled.
Whatever, yeah. So he'll get his chance to pitch at some point, kind of this week before the All-Star break. Good for him. I can imagine it's probably been a rough couple of years for him. So it'll be nice to see him. And this is a guy who's had good years in the past, right? I think it was 22 or 23. He was pretty good. I might have been 22, right? This is a guy who's been good in the past. So I am excited. I am excited just to kind of see him, and he'll get the chance to kind of first time in a couple years to pitch at the big league level. So should be interesting.
Yeah, and then piggybacking off him was Ianson, who went 5 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, gave up a homer, but outside of that, he was phenomenal. Just 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. He had a really nice double play on like I believe it was a bunt. But it was really weird to see him come in out of the bullpen. Technically, he had a blown save, but he did pick up the win. Just another Anthony Ianson, I guess I can't say start, but another Anthony Ianson outing where it was just like, yeah, this guy's awesome. Sunday was really fun. Blake Wehunt, 5 innings, 1 hit, no runs. He walked 4, but he struck out 9. And then Jedrickson Paez came in for the last 4 innings to get the save. 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 8 strikeouts. So just more of what we expect from Jedrickson Paez. Wehunt's down to a 338 with a 119 whip in 12 starts. He's got 66 strikeouts, just 16 walks in 48 innings. But I feel like we haven't talked about Paez enough, maybe just because of the whole weird thing with him starting the year with the White Sox and being on the major league roster and all that weird stuff. But like he's been himself. He's got a 4.26 ERA, which isn't phenomenal or anything, but he's got a 2.09 batting average against. He's got a 0.88 WHIP, and then he's got 35 strikeouts to just 4 walks and 31 2/3 innings. So like he's still been just absolutely phenomenal. And he's still only 22 years old. Like this is absolutely a guy who the Red Sox should be excited about continuing to develop. And he continues to show it at every level that he's been at. And I feel like he kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit because he doesn't throw super hard, and again, the weird situation. And there's just so many like exciting arms who are throwing, 99, 98, 100. And there was like the rise of Peyton Tolley, and there was the rise of Ianson this year, and just that with everything going on, I feel like Paez kind of is just a body now. But he's continuing to just be awesome. So I feel like, especially this week with what a ridiculous outing he had out of the bullpen, I feel like he should be just brought up a little bit more because he just continues to be awesome.
It is funny. We kind of forget about all this stuff. Great for him that he did get to pitch in the big leagues, though. Great for him. He covered everything for the most part. I just do want to just kind of touch again on Weehunt, just on the he did walk 4 and hit 1. So obviously not like the greatest, but like also too, like struck out 9. Like I said, struck out 9, just the 1 hit, right? Overall, like still a solid outing. One of those things where like I don't know if it's just me. I'd rather a pitcher get, give up a couple free passes instead of getting like hit around, right? I'll take the free passes instead of because, if you give up 2 walks, it's runners on first and second. If you give up a double and then a single, it's a run scored, right? So, or you give up 2 singles and then a fly ball scores, might score a guy from third, potentially if he goes first to third, right? Whereas 2 walks are just on first and second. A fly ball is only, it might move them up, but at least it's not going to score a run, right? So there is that. I don't really have anything else.
Nope. Gage Zeal, 5 innings, 1 run, 6 hits, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. He just continues to, again, rough start to the year. He's been phenomenal. Again, I'll just do the quick. I've seen him live twice, and both times I've come away saying I need to talk about him more, and then I don't talk about him more on Twitter. So that's my fault.
Yeah. I also will kind of just chuck. I just real quick. I just want to run through. So Paez had 8 strikeouts. Sandoval had 7. Weehunt had 9. Radistina in 4 innings and 2 appearances had 6 strikeouts. Zeal had 8. Ianson had 7, and Holobetz had 7. So there were some pretty good strikeout numbers in Portland this week. With that, we do want to move on. We are actually trying to kind of keep it relatively short. We mentioned the kind of top hunters not feeling great. Trying to make it kind of not too long. Speaking of kind of guys who are, speaking of kind of when they were drafted, guys who are more seen as hit tool guys, and maybe looking to develop more power. Mason White. What do you know? We talked about guys who, on average, home runs per fly ball. Mason White was like right at the top of that when we did kind of our farm system frenzy. Was it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago now? Mason White, 6 hits this week, a double and 2 homers, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. And I'm sure we will get to Antonio Anderson too, but Mason White, I think for me, like with the draft coming around, it was a little bit of a reminder too, with kind of going into like the Red Sox draft strategy and how they do like those kind of hit tool guys where there might be some juice in the tank. Mason White seemed to be one of those guys, and he is living up to it. The guy, it feels like whenever he hits a ball in the air, it's damn good chance of being homer. 2 again this week. He's had a really good year so far. It is interesting because he got a little bit overshadowed. I think a lot of the talk out of spring training was, Henry Godbout, Godbout. Like, and not saying that was wrong. But Mason White so far this year, he's hitting 267. Nice. Also, the Red Sox have the 67th pick in the draft this year, so also nice. I forgot to mention that earlier. He's at 359 on base, 870 OPS. He's already got 12 homers this year. Wouldn't shock me if he ends up with like 20 this year, right? And if you would have told me at the beginning of the year Mason White was going to hit 20 homers, I would have been, that seems a little bit high. But he's had a really good year, so yeah, Mason White for me definitely he's been I don't want to say a surprise, but he the power has been more than what I was thinking it was going to be, which is really nice to see because, like I said, he's still hitting around 270. So it's not like the average has been non-existent. He's still getting hits and he is driving the ball in the air, which is nice to see.
Yeah. Like it would be one thing if he was hitting 230 with the 12 homers, and it's like, okay, well, he's completely selling out for the power. But yeah, he's still hitting for a decent average. And my lord, is that just a violent swing? The whole process, like the leg kick and it's aggressive, but it's phenomenal. He's been fantastic. It's like you said, it's the big talk was Henry Godbout, but there were also the talks of like he's also someone who could come into this system and really develop with that swing. But then it was also a great week for Luke Heyman. Went 7 for 21 with 2 homers. He's up to 14 on the year between single A and high A. The average has gone up since going to high A. The home runs have gone up since going to high A. So it's kind of what we expected. Like, even though it's higher competition, it was one of those things where it was like, yeah, but he doesn't have to hit in Salem anymore. So don't be surprised if the offensive numbers do go up for him. And we kind of saw the adjustment period, like he hit its first 2 at bats in a high A were home runs, but then he kind of hit a little bit of a lull, and it was like, okay, well, he's going up against harder pitching. It's going to take a minute, but now that he's adjusted, we're starting to see him be like, wait, I'm not hitting in Salem anymore. I'm gonna start mashing. And then Antonio Anderson, mentioned him earlier when we were discussing the horrible draft ideas. 7 for 18, 3 doubles. He's up to a 255, 355, 411 slash line. 8 doubles, a triple, 4 homers. He just missed like 4 home runs this week, like just literally like top of the wall, barely under the yellow line. So like it's all just right there for him. But this is a Greenville lineup that has like 5 deadly hitters between Mason White, Luke Heyman, Justin Gonzalez, Andy Azakar, Yoelan Cespedes, who hit 3 homers this week. He kind of struggled with batting average wise, but still he hit 3 home runs, and he's got 14 on the year, and he's got 40 something RBIs, and he's got a ton of doubles. And Isaiah Jackson, who has a ton of home runs. Like this is just a loaded lineup. Ferry Rodriguez, who's got 12 homers, in a ridiculous lineup. Antonio Anderson has been by far the best hitter over the last like 30 days. Like basically since the calendar turned to June, he has been just a phenomenal hitter. He's over the last 30 days. They have 2 hitters for Greenville hitting over 300. One of them is Jack Winay, who's not on the team anymore. He was hitting 314. And then the other one is Antonio Anderson, who is hitting 426 with a 481 on base and a 745 slugging percentage. Like he's just been otherworldly. And again, it goes back to him getting consistent playing time with Jack Winay getting promoted and with Fraley Encarnacion getting injured. And it's just like he's gotten this playing time and he's
even
taking full advantage of it. Yeah, with Henry Godbout getting hurt. Yeah, like he's in the lineup full time now, and it's been incredible for him.
And sometimes that's all it takes too. I also mentioned Isaiah Jackson had a kind of cycle over the course of the week. Couple pair of singles, a double, a triple, and a homer. You mentioned obviously Cespedes 3 homers. Andy Azakar had a homer, as did Ronnie Hernandez. But yeah, I think obviously the real kind of standouts this week were White and Anderson, and then even like I said, Isaiah Jackson, who came into even Stanley Tucker. We haven't mentioned he had a pair of doubles this week. He walked twice and he stole 4 bases as well. So I'll throw that one out there as well. We'll jump over to the pitching side in Greenville now, and shout out Hudson White for a scoreless inning. We always love shouting that out. I want to start actually with kind of, we typically don't touch on guys who are like relievers over the week first, but Joe Vigatsky in his 2 appearances, 7 1/3 innings. He also got a save, 4 hits, no runs, 8 strikeouts in those 7 1/3 innings, just the 1 walk and 1 hit batter. One of those guys, because of, being out of the bullpen, and this is really for anyone who kind of comes out of the bullpen on any given week, does get overlooked. We talked about Vagatsky a decent amount, I feel like, last year, and this year really hasn't been a ton. Not necessarily his fault necessarily, just with, it feels like unless you have a stellar week in Greenville on the pitching side, odds are you're overlooked by like Anthony Eisen or Kyson Witherspoon or this one. So for Vagatsky, it was a really good week for him. I know the numbers this year haven't been crazy or anything, but he was in the was it the Emmanuel Valdez trade, was it? Or it was one of the trades with Pittsburgh. One of them trades with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it was Valdez.
Yeah. And then I do want to mention Kyson Witherspoon because we touched on him last week and how he had pitched really well since he had, like, I mentioned how it was like, I think it was like a 6-start span where he'd pitched really well, and I think it was like a 250 something ERA in that span. And that was all after he had like his week off. Not a great start this week. Obviously 4 innings, 4 runs, 6 hits, hit a guy, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Not a great start. No worries, right? It's 1 start. It's another thing too. I always like to kind of mention it too, even like it's 1 start, right? We're here for the development. Next week, Kyson Witherspoon could go out and pitch a complete game no-hitter. And okay, as great as that would be, like, it's 1 start, right? Every single start, these are, it's 1 start in the grand scheme of things. So it's not really a worry. The start like that's not really a worry for me right now. But I did just kind of want to mention that. And then the last thing for me, I feel like really should be mentioned. Actually, sorry, 2 things. Marcus Phillips, 4 1/3 innings, just the 1 run, struck out 3, did give up 4 hits, but only 1 run over 4 1/3. That's nice. Then Griffin Kylander, 4 innings, no hits, no runs, 6 strikeouts, did walk 2 and hit a guy, but 4 innings of hitless baseball without giving up any runs. You can't really complain about that. So that's pretty good. Anything else on the pitching side, Hunter?
No, I think you about touched everything. I just think it's important to mention Phillips didn't walk anyone in the 4 1/3 innings, which is massive. He hit someone, but I mean that's
more efficient, some would say.
Yeah, which for him honestly is big because that's been, I mean, walks in general, he's got 33 and 41 1/3 innings. He's got 46 strikeouts there, but like that's just been a massive issue for him is pitch count, even in games where, I mean, like even this game, 4 1/3 innings. And like, obviously, no walks, only 4 hits. The issue is just, he keeps getting these really long pitch counts. And like, he'll, even when he gets like a strikeout or a ground out, it's like, oh, but it was a 6 pitch at bat. It was a 5 pitch at bat. It was an 8 pitch at bat. And it's like, that those tally up and all of a sudden you're through 3 innings and you're at 64 pitches already. So, not walking anybody helps because a lot of these games, going through the game stats, 3 walks, 1 walk, 1 walk, 4 walks, 3, 2, 2, 4, 2, 7, 1, 3. So this was his first professional start without a walk. So that's a very good sign, especially after, just a couple games removed from that big 7 number. So, hopefully this is the start of something, a nice little run for him where he keeps that number low.
Definitely. Moving to Salem, I do want to start with Franklin Primera. I know it wasn't like the greatest week for him, but he did get his first affiliated ball hit. The bigger thing for me with him though this week, he only struck out 5 times. 5 times in 5 games. So he wasn't like being like totally overpowered and like just getting his doors blown off, right? First game is an affiliated ball for him. So you gotta love for him to go on like 10 for 20 with 5 homers, but we weren't expecting that, right? And we mentioned it a little bit last week. Like if he struggles at first, like that's in some ways to be expected, right? It is a big jump from the FCL to Salem, especially to doing it middle of the season before the FCL season ends. Like it is a big jump. So that is kind of important to note. I do want to also touch on I will mention just the guys with homers. Claver Salazar hit a homer. Avinson Pinto, Andrew Zapata, friend of the show. Skylar King, Louis. Is it Louis or Louis? I always forget.
Luis Andujar.
Luis Andujar. I will probably forget by next week, but you know it's okay. And then Adonis Guzman hit a homer. I'll just quickly touch on Guzman's week just because he only played in 2 games, but 3 hits, a double, and a homer. Walked twice, only struck out once. Scored 4 runs in 2 games. I know like runs isn't like a great indicator of talent or anything, but like still, I mean, he scored 4 times in 2 games. He was getting on base. I mean, the homer obviously count. He scores a run on a home run. But getting on base, right, and doing all that in just 2 games, right, it kind of shows kind of the good 2 games that he had because he got on base a lot. And he's only got 154 at bats so far this year. He's got a 792 OPS though. He's popped 5 homers so far. I probably should stop saying popped. It sounds like steroids or something. Dumb me. Obviously he split his time between Salem and Greenville with kind of how the catching situations played out, but when he has played, he's been solid. He was a 5th round pick for the Pirates last year. So, you know, what do you know? Another Pirates trade. You know, the Red Sox love him.
I do love those Pirates trades.
Shout out Ben Charrington, man. Shout out. Hey, if you want to give us Paul Skeens too, I wouldn't mind. But oh gosh, but Guzman's but when he's gotten to play, he's been good. He just on for his side of things really hasn't gotten enough playing time just because of the logjam of catchers they now have.
Yeah.
And going to Salem, you'd have thought maybe he could get a little bit more playing time, and then up here comes Franklin Primera coming up, right? So he's kind of getting a little bit of the short end of the stick, unfortunately. But like I said, when he's played, he's been good. I didn't mention some of those guys. Obviously, I will touch on Apata having the 4 stolen bases as well. This week. Skylar King added a stolen base. Andujar added a stolen base. Pinto added a stolen base. Justin Berry had a stolen base. There were a lot of walks this week, which unfortunately sometimes, you know, when you at a level like Salem, doesn't always mean great discipline. So, you know, you take those with a grain of salt sometimes, especially if you're just looking at the walk. Now, if a guy walks 8 times in a week, it's a little bit different. But when you have a lot of guys walking 2-3 times this week, kind of like like Salem did, and then you add in a couple guys walking once. The only people who didn't walk this week was D'Angelo Ortiz, and he played in, and Andrew Musset, and they both only played in 3 games. So like in some ways the walks are nice, but
yeah,
you know, not totally indicative of Salem's performance. Not saying it's a bad thing. You take them when you get them, you know, because you still have to not swing at those pitches. Anything else, Hunter, on the position players?
I do just want to mention Opata is now up to 37 steals. That puts him 1 ahead of Braden Ward, who has 36 for the organizational lead. That's just something I'm going to keep
friends of the
an
show.
eye on. Yeah, that's just something I'm going to keep an eye on because those two have kind of been going back and forth all year with that. On Primera, obviously, like you said, 1 for 17, not exactly the most exciting thing. But I was super locked in on Salem this week. He was much more impressive than the numbers look. He obviously, I know it doesn't count for anything, but he had a ton of like really hard hit foul balls. He had a ton of really hard hit outs. He had a ton of really good at bats. He looked fine defensively. Obviously, you don't really see much like behind the plate, and there wasn't like it's not like, oh, they were hitting a bunch of bunts to him or anything, but like there was nothing noticeable. But yeah, I was very happy with the performance beyond the numbers. Like there was a ton of just really good at bats where it was like, damn, that should have ended better for him than it did. I mean, his first at bat I think was like a 9-pitch at bat where it was like the 8th pitch was a foul ball home run, and then it ended with like a ground out or something like that, and it was like, all right, that's frustrating. And then just Luis Andujar really struggled the first couple weeks, but he's been phenomenal the last like 10 days or so. 353 this week. He hit his first homer. He had 5 RBIs. He's only 18, and it looks like he was phenomenal in the FCL to the point where he got a really quick call up. And he was like the praise that he was getting out of the FCL was massive. Just like there was all like the exit velo and the launch angle, like just everything that was possibly heard about him was like, man, this guy is impressing. And it just wasn't translating. And it was what we've talked about, where it's like, it's just FCL to single A, a much bigger jump than a lot of people probably realize. And he's still got a little bit of a ways to go to like climb himself out of the hole, but he's 18, and again, the last 10 games have been awesome, and I 100% believe that he will continue to climb out of the hole. So it's good to see him starting to get there.
Yeah. On the moving to the pitching side of things, Jason Gilman went 6 innings with 2 hits, no runs, 9 strikeouts, 2 walks, and a hit batter. Also kind of jump a couple other high strikeout performances. Joey Gatchel, 4 2/3, 5 hits, 1 run, 9 strikeouts, no walks, just the hit.
Gartrell. There's an R before the T.
Gartrell. I'm just gonna start saying I'm dyslexic, and then we're just all gonna start believing because I can't pronounce anyone's names properly, anyways. My hot take is just actually that the text is just small enough on my laptop to where it's easy to misread. That's going to be my excuse, actually. Although it's weird because I am farsighted, but that's beside the point. And then Christian Fauch, 4 2/3 innings as well, just the 1 run, 3 hits, 8 strikeouts, and 1 walk. So those are kind of your 3, I guess, kind of biggest performance strikeouts wise. I will also throw Luis Cohen a shout out. 4 innings of no hit ball, no runs, no walks, no hit batters. That's kind of the Luis Cohen special, it feels like, if you want to kind of call it that. And then 4 strikeouts for him as well. So those are kind of your true kind of standouts this week in Salem. Anyone that I'm missing, Hunter?
I do want to shout out Trenner O'Donnell, who made his first start of the year through 23 innings last year, and then injuries popped up through a couple innings in the FCL, and then 3 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 4 strikeouts, no walks this week. So just good to see him back. He was a pretty intriguing prospect a couple of years ago, 2024, 2025. So, 8th round pick in 2023, not related to Jake. We've made the joke 1,000 times, but as Jake,
long lost cousin,
as Jake rightly points out, none of his family is over 6 feet tall, and Trenner O'Donnell is listed as 6'7", 240 pounds. So, much taller than any of the other O'Donnells. But yeah, just good to see him back. And also kind of on a related note, Andrew Parker did mention that I believe Matt Duffy is, oh man, I should have wrote this down. Matt Duffy's going either to single A or to high A. So Matt Duffy's coming back too. So there's another name that we haven't talked about in forever, because I don't think he's pitched since like 2024. But then no, I do just want to, I know you mentioned him, but Christian Fauch, 4 2/3, 3 hits, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. To me, the big thing is just the 1 walk. Because I mentioned him last week. It's just disgusting on the mound, but the walks have been such a massive issue. He's got a 203 batting average against, but he has a 6.18 ERA and a 188 whip, because in 39 1/3 innings, he has 46 walks compared to 54 strikeouts. The 54 strikeouts is great. The 46 walks is not great. But as you could imagine, the issue was even worse before his start this week. So just good to see him rack up the strikeouts and get a couple of innings in without having the walk issue. This was only the 3rd time all year where he walked 1 or fewer. Well, yeah, where he walked 1 people. He's yet to have a 0 walk outing. But so it was good to see him do that. It was also, this was also his longest outing of the year. So piled up a couple of good things. Also a career high in strikeouts for him. So he piled up a bunch of really good stats this week.
Yep. And with that, we're going to wrap up here with Worcester. Like I said, we're trying to keep Hunter, make sure Hunter can go, so make sure he can go get hydrated.
Can you hear it in my voice?
Not a little bit, but also too, last thing we need is a disaster happening. We'll move to Worcester. Actually, there's a decent amount to talk about in Worcester for once. Shockingly, the 1 week we're trying to go quick. lot to talk about in Worcester. Just figures. I'm starting with Alan Castro. Why wouldn't I? He had himself a week and a half. 8 hits in 5 games, a double, 2 homers, 8 RBIs. Also stole a base. Only walked once, struck out just the 5 times though. It's also hilarious because that week, the 2 homers, 8 hits, still only the 6th highest OPS of the week for Worcester. Mike Romero had a pair of homers. Nathan Hickey had a pair of homers in only 3 games. Mickey Gasper, Tyler McDonough, and Braden Ward all had a homer. Gasper stole 3 bases this week. Just hilarious. He also walked 6 times and didn't strike out. Gasper did. Tyler McDonough, pair of doubles with the homer, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, stole a base. He went 5 for 12. Like I said, Gasper went 7 for 14 plus all those damn walks. Nathan Hickey with the 2 homers also paired 2 doubles with that, and he walked 3 times. Did strike out 4 times, but it's a little bit of what you get with Nathan Hickey. Braden Ward had 8 hits, pair of doubles plus the homer, like I mentioned, and he stole 2 bases. Mike Romero had 6 hits this week, like I said, 2 homers. He had 9 RBIs this week.
I think that was
Andrew Kisner had 6 walks this week. What else is there? Vinny Capper and Jason DeLay both also had 5 walks. It was a week of there were a lot of free passes for Worcester this week, but also a lot of power going on there. But yeah, Alan Castro, shout out. I don't know if I should go to Worcester or not. I don't know. I've been debating this at this rate, just because I actually legitimately been debating it. Because but he doesn't play well when I go there apparently. So I don't know, but I'm enjoying it. I very much enjoyed this week from Alan Castro.
Yeah, this was a big one for him. He had the go-ahead hit in the 9th the one game. It's tough for you. I don't know. I think you kind of have to let him ride, and then maybe if he starts to dip again, that's when it's like, okay, now it's time for me to go to a game. But I will say though, was that the most get me back to Boston series of all time by Mickey Gasper? Like that,
it really was.
To be fair, he was not good for the last stretch with the Red Sox, so it's not like they didn't make the right choice. Like, he was bad for the last couple weeks in Boston, but then he goes back and he's like, all right, I'll just have a 667 OPS. I won't have a single strikeout. I'll steal 3 bases for some reason. Like, he was just like, I'll do anything.
Sorry, a 667 on base, not OPS.
Yeah, 667
sorry, on base.
Yeah, just like
I'll
do anything.
He had a 1524 OPS.
Yeah. But also, I will also say, last week I said we're going to start saying every week about how Mikey Romero hit 2 more homers this week. Mikey Romero hit 2 more home runs this week. So I really do think that's just going to become a trend because it's gotten hot out and
yeah. It's gotten very hot out. Some days I think on Thursday and Friday was like 98 and 97 up here in Mass. So if you're not in Massachusetts and you're listening to this and you're wondering how hot it actually got up here, really damn hot. I thought I was back in Florida for those couple of days. It was not fun. This is why swimming pools were invented. And season passes to Six Flags so you can go to the water park. But that's besides the point. But no, there's a lot of good weeks. Unfortunately, we can't get too in-depth on them. Speed up a little bit here. Pitching side of things. Jack Anderson, 3 strikeouts over 5 innings with just the 3 hits, no runs, only walked 2. Could maybe see himself getting a little call depending on what happens with Ranger Suarez if they need someone for another start, potentially.
No, they DFA'd him.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
No, but they had do they have an extra 40-man spot? I thought they had an extra 40-man spot. Or am I losing my mind? Or did Brett Harris take the 40-man spot?
Chris Cotillo 2 hours ago. Red Sox activated Patrick Sandoval off the 60-man. DFA'd Jack Anderson and optioned Alec Gamboa.
Sorry, forgot about that. It's been a long day of research for the draft. Totally forgot about that. Well, maybe Eduardo Rivera will get a chance. He had a good week too. 3 2/3 and 2 appearances. I'm saying maybe I don't know if they need another starter and Patrick Sandoval's already being used. I don't know if Brian. I don't know if they're gonna go to Bayo. That's more so what I'm saying.
My thing is, without looking at the numbers, like without looking at the 40-man, was there no one else to DFA? Did they not? Maybe they're like sure that no one's going to pick up Anderson. I just feel like he's a good depth piece.
Maybe. Well, because I was thinking like maybe they end up, if Ranger can't go on in that Mets series, they could very well go with I was the legitimate thing like Anderson. I mean, like you could go like Uberstein. He went 4 innings and 2 appearances out of the bullpen this week. No hits, no walks, no hit batters, no runs, 7 strikeouts. But like he's only pitching 2 or 3 innings an appearance right now, so that feels kind of. Albeit it's right near the All-Star break, maybe you couldn't handle a bullpen game at that point. Right, Eduardo Rivera also potentially, if you really need a bullpen game. But yeah, it's hell, maybe they just go full bullpen game and let Ryan Watson start. Who knows? Screw it. What could go wrong? I feel so bad for Ryan Watson. It's not his fault. Some of it's not his fault, man. The guy was a Rule 5 pick. I don't think he doesn't have much of a choice. But no, but yeah, I wonder if there's going to be another. Oh no, they do have a full 40-man. Yep, that does make sense. Hey, if they want to put IKF on the 60-day, though, they could. Please. I don't want to see him on the Red Sox. I'm done with IKF. And it's not an IKF because of how IKF was playing. It's a more so I don't like IKF, and he brings back bad memories. If you know, you know. There was a show a while back when IKF was with the Blue Jays, and basically bunt single, not bunt, like a swinging bunt single and a little blooper single I think he had in the same game. And I think it was myself, Matt, and Kevin were basically just losing our minds. And then IKF started haunting us for the next 2 weeks. So I'm kind of over it. The flashbacks are coming back. But yeah. Yeah, someone's gonna have to start and pace a Ranger if he can't go, and I don't know why you'd risk it. It's one start and then the All-Star break. If he's not 100%, I wouldn't risk it. So maybe we see someone get a chance to kind of be the spot starter there in the big leagues. Anything else, Hunter?
I think I'm good.
Perfect. Shockingly, this episode didn't last 4 hours with the draft preview. Maybe Hunter, maybe if you're sick every week, maybe we'll actually have a reasonably timed show, or maybe I'll just start getting sick. Who knows?
I was gonna say I don't know if it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it.
Probably not, but a nice little draft preview show. Like I said, next week we'll have a little bit of a draft recap, plus kind of also a little futures game recap, I guess you can say, and then also to kind of wrapping up the first half. The week after we'll have kind of our mid-season awards, and then once again it'll be kind of getting going for the second half of the season with maybe Franklin. Maybe by next week we'll have a Franklin Arias promotion news. Maybe we'll see. With that, we are going to wrap it up. As always, for Hunter, my name is Derek, and also for Jake, who was here for the draft preview portion of the show. Thanks for watching the Pest
Hell yeah,
Report.
Jake.
We love you, Jake, and we will see you all next time.
This is called the Pesky Report.